All right, here we are. We got a little podcast tonight coming through for the Eddie line. We got Anthonybrown here from Stokestudioz. If you don't know him yet, he's got a
How's it
cool
going, guys?
he's got a cool thing going on. I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're kind of up to in the YouTube world. So go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, man. So obviously, I'm Anthony Brown. I run a YouTube channel called Stokestudioz. It's kind of focused around doing on the water interviews with a bunch of different kayakers. Right now, there's like only like 5 videos up, but a lot of that is kayakers are hard to interview. They're the most fun people to interview, but nailing them on a schedule is like one of the most impossible things ever. Um, what about myself? I started boating about a year ago, depending on like how you want to look at the timeline. Um, I picked up kayaking, got into the Whitewater Center in Charlotte, took a couple of lessons there, and then like the winter came, stopped, and then picked back up in March. Um, and I was kind of like just fumbling around, taking lessons here and there at the Whitewater Center, doing some club stuff, but I don't think I really got into boating the way that I feel like I feel like there's a threshold where you get into boating and then you're a boater. And I think it wasn't until I really met like Pete Beck, the River Kings, and then really linked up with Jerry Yang. Um, and as far as my YouTube stuff goes, it was kind of me getting to meet Pete and Jerry that I kind of came up with this idea of interviewing bigger kayakers because obviously Pete, one of the bigger names in the whitewater scene as far as YouTube stuff goes. Jerry Yang, another like decently big name, and I just ended up in this weird proximity to a bunch of bigger name kayakers, and kind of was like, I feel like I should leverage this in this way. There's a bunch of cool people, and I know for me personally, figuring out a lot of these like names in kayaking, like I didn't know who anybody was. There's not really like a way to be like, oh, this person's a celebrity without Googling them. So I'd be like talking to boaters and they would be like, oh yeah, you know, Isaac Hole just, fired this up, ran this. And I was like, who the hell is Isaac Hole? like, and
Come on, man. That's like not knowing who the Great Bambino is, like
yeah,
on
yeah,
the movie
but
The Sandlot. If anybody's seen that.
but it's just just a good example. Like I just didn't know who anybody was. And it was like the weirdest thing because I'd be like, oh man, look at this cool video that I saw. And everyone's like, yeah, dude, that's Dane Jackson. Like that's yeah, how did you not know who that was? And it was just one of those things where I was like, wow, I wish I had more information on these people as I got into boating and there was more stuff on YouTube without having to know who these people were beforehand. Um, and ever since then, I started doing interviews. Biggest name right now is probably Wade Harrison, and that like is my most watched video, and it's also my like worst edited video as well.
It does matter. It doesn't matter. It has Wade in it. You know.
Yeah,
No
I
one.
think anything with like Wade in the name, people will
No,
watch.
no one cares about me or Jerry or
No,
Shane. Everybody cares about Wade.
yeah, yeah. I think, dude, in like a year, people will go back and watch that Shane interview for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's getting on up there. He's getting his
Yeah,
big boy pants on.
I I speak to just one more thing to touch base on. It's like, so when I was getting into doing this interview thing, I just did my interview with Wade. I had got on the upper green and paddled it with like a friend, and then I saw a bunch of people putting on for the Narrows. I didn't know who any of those people were. I went into the closed off like parking space area. I can't remember what it's called. On the Narrows, they have that like that fenced in gate parking space area. I walk up to a group of people and I am like, "Hey, who's the most famous in this group of people?" And like I had no idea who they were, but it was Adrian Levignac and like a couple of her friends, and I was like, and she was like, I guess like it was like they were like, oh, it's probably her, and I was like, oh, I had no idea who she was. I was like, hey, do you want to do an interview sometime? And she was like, um, yeah, I guess,
Who the hell
and
is this guy?
yeah, exactly. Who is he? He doesn't know who I am.
Psycho.
He- yeah. And I honestly like I've met Adrian a couple times after that, and obviously we haven't done an interview yet. Obviously because boaters are notoriously bad at committing to plans. Like I know several people who call Wade wishy-washy Wade for good reason. No offense, Wade, if you're watching this, but It's just the way that it is. I know. I'll even try to hit up Jerry and be like, "What are we boating this week, man?" And he's like, "Let me let you know 24 hours before we head out."
Yeah, I kind of like to plan for sure because I got children, so it's like kind of like if I'm doing something, I do it. Um, but yeah, I'm sure Adrian was like this. She had her little horn out. And she was like,
That didn't
"Get,
come up great on my
get,
my,
get
my
this, get
headphones.
this guy out of here!
Yeah.
Panic
Uh,
alarm! Panic alarm!" No,
yeah.
just so everybody knows, Anthony's a cool dude. We met first. He did my interview. That was the first time I met him, and yeah, you know, I thought we hit it off pretty good, not in a weird way, but you know, you can tell if you like to paddle with somebody and somebody's a good person. So,
That's not true. We technically met at the YouTube takeover.
well,
I
yeah,
I don't really count it, but
kind
it
of,
was like a foot in the door, and then I was like, I'm gonna go hit this guy up like a week later and see what happens.
yeah. No, Anthony helped me at Gollyfest unload my stuff and helped. He's a good salesperson, so if you ever need him to help you sell some stuff, it seemed like he could sell. I don't
Uh,
know, ice to Eskimo out there.
I think I just talk too much, and I think people get captivated by that. And I
They're either
think
gonna
that's
buy
me.
it or they're gonna tell you to shut up. I guess.
There's only two options, and it's one of those two.
Well, man, you already answered like three of my questions because I was like, I was gonna get you to introduce yourself and then like some background and stuff.
No,
Um,
ask it anyways.
no,
I've
no.
always
The
expanded on it.
reason that I support Anthony, and there's a lot of YouTube people out there. Not that I don't support them necessarily, but the reason I kind of want to have Anthony on the so-called YouTube bandwagon is he does have something unique going on with, and it's an added. I think anything that anybody does for YouTube, like you got to think of it as none of us are gonna get rich. So if you're planning on doing YouTube to you think it's a get rich quick scheme, it's not going to work. Been at this for 2 years. I can show people analytics from what I make, which is like beans, like $20 maybe. And I've been doing this for 2 years and have like 90 some videos. So anyway, besides the point, Anthony's doing this for a good thing and like it's adding something to the community. You know, some people you might kind of know, but then you're interviewing them. I really liked how you transitioned to like if you watch the last one about Tony, it's more about his life and that kind of thing rather than on water stuff. Honestly, I wouldn't mind doing another one. I mean, like interviewing Kristen and the kids and stuff like that. It's really cool to like see like the inside of somebody, like you know how they not only their family but how they got about boating, how boating like intertwines with their family and life and everything like that. So I think it's pretty cool what you're doing. So I 100% support, and that's why I kind of wanted you on the channel, and I support you as a friend and just colleague as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that like you obviously learn how your craft kind of evolves over time. Like you kind of see what works and what doesn't. And I mean, boating is kind of hectic. There's no reshoots in boating. Like there, I can't tell you how many times I've thought my GoPro was recording or what, and then it turned out it wasn't. I just lose like a whole
Well, actually, yeah.
question.
I did the North
It's
Fork Tide the other day, and half of it didn't come out, and I almost threw the thing across the ground. So there you go.
yeah, no, it's one of those things, and when you're depending on what river you're on, the ability to like sit down and actually have a conversation is not always easy. Like either your mic is picking up too much background water feedback, or it's like, oh, there's like 17 other people hanging out in this eddy right now who like are now picking up on the microphone. And it's tough, but I think there's nothing better than getting to know someone on the water. Like
No, for
obviously me
sure.
and you
Yeah.
are good friends now, and like I think that I think that if we hadn't, we wouldn't have been as close. Like even if like by being like close to each other proximity wise, I don't think we'd be the friends that we are now.
No, for sure. Yeah. It's something to say about doing it on the water. I appreciate Anthony because he has this little notebook with him he carries with him, and he writes down all of his questions, and like he'll pop that thing out like in the middle of an eddy or something, and then like here you like see him coming, you're like, here's the next question.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, you can't. It's hard to come up with stuff on the fly. Like, I mean, I have stuff written down right now, and whenever I even do a boat review shoot, I have a cheat sheet with me, so it is tough. I get it.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I mean, sometimes you do come up with questions on the spot, but you also don't want to end up asking the same kind of questions over and over again. Um, And then the other problem is I stutter sometimes. Like it's kind of bad. And it's like I can't like once I'm on a roll, it's like it just doesn't stop until I just restart over. And when you're recording, sometimes you don't always think to like restart the question. And so I like on multiple interviews, I was like, oh, this answer is ruined because I stuttered like for 5 seconds and then just bled right into my question anyways after I stopped finally. And then you just end up having to throw away like most of it because there's no clean transition between that.
Well, you'd be surprised. People don't care too much, honestly, especially with kayakers. Now, if you're doing this for like crime junkies or something and competing against thousands of other people, that might be one thing. But yeah, I
I
think
think
it's
I'd make more money in true crime.
absolutely. Kayaking is not a moneymaker whatsoever. That is for sure. So, besides kind of like what, um, I guess what kind of keeps you going with the channel? I know you have like 5 videos so far. So like, have you gotten discouraged yet? I mean, you've been doing this a short time, but still for a few months now. I mean, have you gotten discouraged at all? Or are you?
Um, there's definitely what discouraged me the most would probably be the effort that goes into it sometimes. Like it's not always easy, man. Like trying to hound people to actually meet you on a river to answer questions is already a difficult challenge within itself. Um, and I've gone up to multiple people, like I've seen them in person after messaging them. I'm like, hey man, like it's so nice to meet you. I did actually message you like a week ago about doing an interview. I'd love to do it again sometime. And so I've probably come off kind of like an a-hole to some people. But it's really hard because like especially when you don't really have the credentials in the sport, it's hard trying to convince people to go sit down and boat with you and also do a video. Like Ryan McAvoy, love the guy, big Ryan McAvoy fan. Um, like he straight up told me he was like, "Hey man, I think it's a great concept. I love watching your videos. I don't think that I could sit down and commit to doing a video." And I respect that, you know. I obviously can't make people do interviews. And I think that there's some real concerns, you know. We are a very colorful crowd of people, you know, us in the kayaking world. And I think sometimes it's hard to also capture who a person is necessarily in an interview. Obviously, that's the job of a good interviewer, but you know, you can't always make the magic happen.
Well,
But I
yeah,
feel like I did disservice to you in your video.
there's no disturbance. You can always do another one. Hey,
I mean, yeah.
I did one with Trent, and the sound was absolutely awful, so I had to delete it. It was a lot of good information, but you know, it is what it is. You live and learn as you do videos. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what you said about credentials is shoot, man. Even the stuff I've run, I've been kayak for 25 years. I still think people think I'm young, like I don't know, like 27 or something. I'm not, you know.
Not with those gray hairs.
Yeah, I mean, but I think a lot of people do though. Like I'm 39 years old anyway. But I mean, I've been around for a long time. I paddled a lot of stuff. I mean, gosh, I paddled probably what I'm gonna paddle, but I think it's still decent amount of water or decent runs, and people still don't really respect me. So I mean, it's tough. You gotta really earn your keep around the kayaking community. Unless you're really firing up some crazy stuff or racing and getting first place, you know, or the top 5, like kind of people were like, who's this person? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's kind of like the top elite there. Not that's with everything though. I mean, it could be any sport, football, whatever. It's just how the way it is. But yeah, I mean, you definitely kind of. I think from your standpoint, I think next year will kind of be your year where you step up and run a lot of stuff, and I think people will start to see that, and then be like, all right, yeah, okay, do an interview with
Yeah.
him.
I've been trying not to rush it too. I think this is like just good general advice for boaters in general, especially if you're on the, you know, in my kind of timeline of being like in a year or so. There's no need to rush anything.
Absolutely.
I think, and my frame of reference for the sport has changed a lot over this last year. Um, and I think the more that you get exposed to the sport, I think this happens. I like to think that this happens for a lot of people because I like to think people are sensible. But I think the better you get, the more you realize stuff, what it takes to be performing at a certain level. And I think that people don't always respect what it takes to perform at that level. Not going to name anybody or anything like that, but I think there's a lot of people out there who fire stuff up that doesn't necessarily be fired up. And I mean, granted, it doesn't always go bad, but I mean, this is a sport that like it goes great until it doesn't, and I think that it's just not worth. It's a risk reward thing, you know, and I don't think it's always worth the reward to run that risk. And for me, I've seen some stuff where I was like, hey, maybe I need to reevaluate what I'm doing in the sport and push it off until later. So that way I'm actually like making a safe, conscious decision to run something knowing that I could run it. Like
Oh, absolutely.
successfully.
Yeah. Yeah, I think more people need to have that or you want a cognizant attitude that you have of that. Because yeah, I mean, you could potentially go run everything on the green and be fine 3 times, and then you could run it the next time and not at all. So I mean, I think it's become that way. A lot of people survive stuff, and it's like, oh, I've made it through, so I'm good. I can do that every time I want to, but that's not the truth. You really should be styling stuff um before you say like, yeah, I like mastered that river per se or whatever. Like I can take people down. Um yeah, I mean, you got a good point there. So I mean, I'm happy that you would say stuff like that and take your paddling seriously, and I know you got a good future ahead of you, so you don't want to get hurt either. So
I also
something
want
you
to
got to think
say
about.
I haven't always been like that. Like I think that there was definitely a certain point in my paddling where I was like making a ton of progress early on, like, and I definitely thought to myself, "Oh, I'm gonna be," you know, I used to, I like it was like a half joke, but I would say like I'm gonna triple crown the Narrows like my first like descent, and obviously like I after some time I'm like even as a joke I feel like that's not necessarily a great joke, because like I think what necessarily it requires, and granted, as somebody who's not a Narrows boater right now, um, I think that there's a level of arrogance that people have when it comes to running some of these stouts. Like, I think what you don't know is sometimes like ignorance is bliss, and I feel like that's very true on the river. Like people will fire something up and like absolutely beat her a line and be like, "That was so sick! I ran this stout," not knowing that they were like an inch away from like a terminal hole that was going to destroy them, or like a nasty like piton, you know, or potential pin situation. And they live it up, you know, and not to say that you shouldn't have fun on the river, but it's something that I've recognized and been able to like see within myself change over time.
That's pretty cool though, man. Yeah, I mean, shoot, last year I ran everything clean, and then this year I've been getting worked. I mean, front gorilla backwards, upside down, multiple times. Almost swam out a triple drop. I mean, yeah, this year hasn't been great for my paddling of bigger stuff. So, I mean, yeah, you have your good years and bad years, but
No, I
the
think there's always that. I mean, I don't think that I'm sure every boater feels this way, but like you're gonna have your good days and your bad days. Like, I mean, for me, I put on for plus 13 Wilson the other day, and I felt great. Like I felt like that was one of the best boating days of my life. Um, and then like got pinned up like or like got stuck up against some rocks the next day at 0, and then swam. You know, it's just like you have your bad days. It you know, and it kind of I'm somebody who's very critical of my boating, like my own boating, and I think I was angry for like the next 6 days in a row.
oh, I don't
Um,
like it either. Absolutely no. I and especially me, I've been paddling a long, long time, so it's like I don't like to mess up. It pisses me off, and it is what it is. But you know,
yeah, I mean, but how many people could say that they've run gorilla backwards and upside down? You know,
probably
long
more,
enough.
probably more than you think. Yeah, probably more than you think.
How many people in a Zet boat?
Not that many because not many people paddles that. But yeah, especially not in a chili. But I did. I went off sideways on that one, but and backwards actually on the green race. So yeah. But yeah. So what's been like your favorite run so far? Like, what do you think? Just to get a little bit more about Anthonybrown here.
Ooh, favorite run. Favorite run, I think would have to be the lower Golly with you.
Oh,
That was
cool.
probably
Yeah.
one of the most like that probably is number one or number two. Favorite run ever would probably be Wilson at plus 13 with Jerry. Um, but I mean, plus 13 on Wilson, you're basically in big water territory for what you know that river runs at. You're no longer really creaking, in my opinion. You've got so much water that there's almost there's a very few amount of rocks by that point. Um, I think I like big water more. As somebody who like started out at the Whitewater Center, I think the Whitewater Center is a great tool, and it's specifically the one in Charlotte. Obviously, if you're like a West Coast boater or something, um, and I love it. I started doing that, and I love being able to take a deep stroke on the water. Anytime I feel like I take a paddle stroke and I'm scraping against rocks the entire time, I think I like get a little bit angry on the water, or a little less. I have a little less fun each time my paddle like strikes a rock.
So yeah, it's kind of funny
Um,
because I think I started out the same way. Like I mean, obviously in Central Virginia, I don't have too much balcony falls, and I ran into high water all the time if I would run it, or New River Gorge or Golly. So I kind of started off on that big water, but I think once you start running creeks more, I think creeking really for me is like it's more an advanced skill and it takes more technical skill. So like especially to get it right. Yeah, you can bang down a creek and be like, "Oh, I made it down," but to like nail your lines every time, even on the green, like I've gone to the green 50 times, but like have I cleaned it? How many times have I cleaned a run? I don't know, like maybe once or twice. Like so I think creaking is one of those things where like it's super hard to really get down a clean line like on a class 4 or 5 creek, which I take pride in. So like even on the upper yacht, kind of creaky, big watery, but you can really nail a line there and feel good about your day.
what do
Especially
you? This is a great question that I have for you.
yeah, yeah.
What is your definition of having a clean run, or like? Because
Um,
I feel like I hear people throw that around, and I
yeah,
don't necessarily believe that people
like
aren't
a
having a
nine.
clean
I'd
run.
say 90% of people with clean run means not rolling to them, which I could care less about. Clean run to me just means clean lines. Like say for instance, I'm going down the green. I don't ball up at Frankenstein, or I don't hit a rock at Boofers, or hit the slot at Go Left super clean, or whatever. Hammer factor. I mean, there's so many lines on that river that you can mess up. Just even one that it's like I don't know, kind of related to like playing a video game and not dying one time. It's
Yeah,
super hard. No matter how many times you played that one level, like it's super hard to do it. I don't know. That's
totally.
just that's just what I like to do. And when I
Yeah.
when even when I'm on like a Nana Halo, like if I were to take you on Nana Halo again, and like we did the eddy hop and like catching every single eddy like on Nana Halo Falls, if I miss one, like I'm disappointed in myself. So kind of every time I go on the river, I try to sharpen my skills in some way, even if we're just having fun. But like class 1, class 2, you can still do anything to help your skills out. But
Absolutely.
for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think a lot of people have. I think you're right about most people's definition of a clean run is just like not rolling. Yeah, and I definitely was also that same mindset. Like, I definitely think there was a time where I was like, "Oh, I didn't flip on this water, on this river at all. Awesome day. I'm like
What
definitely
boat?
stop
What
boating."
boat were you in? Like an Alpha 90? That's what I would say. Take a
I,
chili or take a full slice down the Chihuahua, and then tell me that you had a dry hair day.
yeah, yeah. No, I think a little more about my like start. I regret being in a creek boat early on. Like I started in a fluid spice, which I not that I'm saying that it's a bad boat. I'm just saying, I wouldn't recommend a fluid spice to most people. I
Never
would
even heard
definitely,
of it. So I mean, and I do. I do boat
not
reviews. Never
to
heard of it.
don't want to dish any boat brand, but I wouldn't start with a fluid spice. I wish I could have been in a half slice sooner. I wish I would have started in a half slice and had really been punished for like mistakes earlier on. Um, I think the most progress I've made has been from being in a half slice, and I think that that's very true for like I think so long as you really want to dial in the sport and get really good, being in a half slice is where it's at. Um,
Absolutely. A lot of people will disagree on both of us on this, but I would say the same thing. If you are wanting to progress in kayaking, like, all right, so if you're 80 years old, your grandfather's getting into it, sure, get
you
him,
don't need to be in a half
get him a
slice.
big creek boat like a Zen 3 or something that doesn't flip over. But if you're literally younger, you're trying to progress in the sport, please do not get a creek boat. Get a half slice to start out with, at least.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. It just teaches you so much more and edge control, whatever. I mean, being in a big bobber that goes down the water and just gets you down the river is not ideal for learning how to kayak.
Absolutely.
So
And I
I mean,
think everything's
I get
fine.
the rebuttal on that. It's gonna be like, well, what if you put somebody in a half slice in, they just have a terrible time and flip all the time and blah blah blah. But in my mind, you should be rolling before you're really on the river anyway.
Hmm.
So wet Xing is absolute last resort when I teach somebody. If you swim in front of me, I'm gonna smack you.
Yeah, that I
You
remember
get to do
doing
the
that.
you get to do the same for me, unless it's like a insane spot. But
Oh yeah,
yeah.
if you're like Wade on the Pigeon Dries and you like swim, I'm
That
not
was
gonna
not
be like.
funny. Some people laughed at that, and I know that spot, dude. That is not. That was a
Well,
gnarly.
that's what I'm saying. Like I looked at that and I was like, I was like, holy cow, Wade has like stayed in this hole for a lot longer than I think 98% of the boating community, and the ability to like at least maintain some level of composure in that situation.
Well, if you notice, he had full composure. Even when he swam, he went for a back loop and pulled his skirt like during the back loop, so he would
Yeah.
flush out the hole. So like, and he knew what he was doing because he knew where all the sieves were. But like, that is an absolute horrid place to swim. I
Hmm.
would probably be crapping my pants if I swim right there. No, no lie. Look at this little girl behind us. She's
I know
peeking.
she's been doing it the whole time. I wanted to keep just ignore
We
it.
get all right. So we got 8 minutes left. So what's your favorite boat so far, man? I need to
Ripper
focus more
two,
on Anthony. Ripper 2. Oh, yeah, the small.
Ripper
That's
two,
right. So how many times have you had that out?
once, and it was the best day of my life.
Oh, sweet. I'm glad, man. I was convinced Anthony to get the Ripper 2 small, and I'm glad he did.
I was on the fence for a long time. I had a small rewind. If you've watched any of my stuff or know me, you know I had a small rewind, and I love the boat. No, no disrespect to Dagger or the small rewind, um, but I think as far as I think the rewind is a better, which is might be a better downriver runner. I think, but I think for what I wanted out of a half slice, the Ripper 2 is there's nothing better than Ripper 2. You can hate me all you want if you don't like the Ripper or Piranha as a brand or anything like that, but the Ripper 2 gets vertically so easy. It is a very playful boat. It surfs well. It's the bow on it makes it great. It's in comparison to the Ripper 1. All in all, 12 out of 10 boat. No ifs, ands, or buts. I loved it.
Well, good. You can do my review for me that I've yet to do on the Ripper 2 small, at least.
Yeah,
Haven't
okay.
had time, but yeah, no, I agree with you, man. It's super fun boat. I took it on the Upper Galley. That's the only time I've paddled so far, but yeah, thing gets vertical like cakewalk. I'd probably agree that the rewind's a little better downriver just because the tail's not so slicey. But if you just want to have fun, freaking go downriver and have a blast, Ripper too small, yeah, for sure. Where it's at, I agree with you. So moving on because the Zoom is gonna cut us off. I'm cheap and have the free version of Zoom. So who's your favorite like elite paddler? I might know the answer to this question. Is it still the mustache man?
It is still Shane, and here's why.
Shane fanboy here, Shane Simon.
I'm a Shane fanboy, and the reason for this is as much as I love like pro athlete paddlers, there's no personal connection for me to them. Like even when you talk about like the Narrows or anything like that, I'm always more invested in people I know because I have like an investment in their paddling career. Um, like elite paddler, be Shane Simino, I wouldn't have had the same level of drive to get better as a boater if I hadn't stumbled across his like PFD of the Narrows. Seeing him fire up Gorilla was like a like kickstart to my career for sure.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, if you don't know Shane, he's an awesome guy. Super good paddler. Been paddling like a year, and it's just absolutely insane. I actually haven't seen anything like it in 25 years, so can't believe he's not actually sponsored by somebody yet. Somebody should pick him up. I don't know. Crazy. Yeah. Shane, he's awesome. I'd have to say Wade for me. We connect pretty well, and yeah, I mean we're older. We're both older too, so and just kind of on the same wavelength as far as that. Like when he says he's gonna be somewhere, we meet. He's always early, always on time, that kind of thing. So I appreciate that. And he just showed me a lot last year. Like, gosh, I don't know how many PFDs he showed me down, but yeah, that'd have to be mine right now as far as like an elite, but not like pro paddler, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
The other person I really like is Tara Blair for the women. She's just a super awesome person in the sport. Does a lot for everybody. Super nice person. So yeah. what was your favorite thing about the green race this year? Make it kind of quick because we're down to 4 minutes.
It was you going down. It was definitely you going down.
It's like, look, there's Matt screwing up.
Yeah. That for me was like the highlight. I was like, and like I said, for me, it's personal investment. I have a personal investment in all the people that I care about. Like I have an attachment to that, and I want to see people do well, even if they, happen to go upside down, sideways, down, gorilla. I care about that, and that was maybe my favorite moment. Second favorite moment, definitely Shane looping the puppy.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was cool. To me, like I don't even think that Dane breaking 4 minutes really means anything to me. Like, okay, cool. Like, no disrespect to Dane or anything like that, but like I, as a person, I'm like, oh wow, sick. Someone who I like am never gonna perform at their level did something that I'll never even come close to doing. That's awesome, I guess.
Well, no, I appreciate that as a, I guess, kayak follower, because it's kind of like just jumping on a bet. It's like when some team you don't know in football wins the Super Bowl, then all of a sudden thousands of people like that team. I mean, it's no different. You're like, all right, Dane won, but I'm not going to be a Dane Jackson groupie. I mean, I appreciate that. A lot of people just like Dane because he's the best, and I mean, I get it, having a personal connection with somebody. Now, I will say I would have done a lot better if I wouldn't have went over backwards. Probably would have ended up with like a 5:30. So otherwise, I embarrassed myself with a 6:15. But anyway, we can get past that. So what are some of your goals for next year in about 30 seconds or less?
Ooh, 30 seconds less. So next year, big things for me. Definitely want to hit Kiowa. Definitely want to hit Narrows. I want to hit Overflow Creek, and Tallulah. Tallulah was supposed to be this year, but obviously, scheduling wise, I couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, that sucked. I was looking forward to that with you.
Yeah, me too. And then obviously big things coming up for me, guys. Look out in the future. I'll be doing some international paddling. I'll be going to Chile this February. And that will be its own thing. Additionally, I'll be going to Ontario to do some paddling on the Ottawa River sometime next year as well. So I'd like to try to do a little bit of that more often, but obviously I'm not rich and made of money, so don't expect a new international paddling video like every week.
Nah, man, that's awesome. A lot of good goals there for next year. What about as far as your YouTube channel? Any specific goals or anything?
Specific goals? I don't know, man. No, nothing specific. My goal has always been to enjoy the river with great boaters. And if even looking at what I've already done, I've already accomplished it.
Gotcha.
That's always going to be my goal. There's, like I said, like we've talked about earlier, there's no money to be made in this for me. I'm in fact losing significant amount of money being a kayaker.
I get it.
So it's just to enjoy good rivers with good boaters. And that's always going to be my goal.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, good to hear. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll do some more stuff together in the future, and keep on the lookout. Me and Anthony will probably do some co-op videos and stuff too. He's a pretty good filmmaker, getting up there, and so we'll do some stuff on the river. Hopefully this winter, maybe we'll get out and do some nature kind of kayaking things and stuff like that. Man. So, and I'll have him on for some more podcasts as he progresses in his boating career. But yeah, check out Anthony's YouTube channel, Stokestudioz. If you have a cool story, you don't have to be good. If you have a cool just story and why you got into kayaking, I enjoy listening to that more than a good elite boater or whatever you want to say. So anyway, yeah, that just ended and cut him off. So thank you, Anthony, and we'll see you later.